Hi, I'm Scott McLean from TranceMusicMastery.com. In this video, I will show you how Adam Sabo created a lead sound like the one heard in The Lost original mix by Matt Zoe. The sound that Adam created sounds like this. Okay, and let me go ahead and walk through the MIDI sequence. Move these windows out of the way, and at the end of the video, I'll play this sequence again with the bass patch that we had programmed earlier in the course. So this MIDI sequence is fairly simple. We start with E3, go up to E4, and then decrease to E to D4, E to C4, E to B3. And that repeats up until the last part, at which point there's an extra G note at the end here. So let me play through that sequence and you can see how the notes correspond to the pitches that you hear. Okay, let me bring up the sound map for this patch. And Adam Sabo says, this sound is mimicking a string and sounds almost like a harp or a guitar. To achieve this, a square waveform with fast decay on the filter is layered with a noise run through a comb filter to give that additional snap a string has. Lots of delay and reverb is nice. So let's take a look at this. So we've got Oscillator 1 with a single saw wave. That flows into a filter, a low-pass mid-drive filter with the cutoff frequency modulated by envelope 2 with a fast attack, medium decay, sustain at 0, and medium release. And then that in turn flows to the amplifier with the volume being modulated by envelope 1 with fast attack, medium decay, sustain at 84%, and a medium release. Okay, so the noise is run through a comb filter, and that is layered in with the output of the low-pass mid-drive filter. And then after it goes through the amplifier, it goes to the effects and then to the main output. Okay, the first effect is a delay. And this one, we're going to set the left to 1/4 dot and the right to 1/4. So that will give a slight difference in timing between the left and right channels. Feedback 43.5 and mix in at 34%. And then that flows into a reverb with approximately a 3-second reverb tail, some dampening for bright reverb. And then into an EQ with a low shelf plus 2.5 dB boost near 55 Hz. A bandpass plus 7.5 dB boost near 175 Hz, and a bandpass plus 3 dB boost near 6 kHz. And then that flows to the main output. Okay, let's build this patch. Okay, I'm starting from the initialize patch, so let's go ahead and listen to this part of the sequence just to get a sense of how that initialize patch sounds. Okay, so we have a saw wave. So the first thing that I want to do is just position Oscillator 1 into lane 2. Okay, I'm just going to move it to lane 2 because we're going to put the comb filter here, and we'll set that up in a moment. But first I'm going to work with Oscillator 1. Now, we want to set the lane 2 volume, set that to 94. And next, let's look at the global section. We're going to set tune to 0. Okay. And next, let's configure Oscillator 1. Alright, so we're going to go with the default settings for Oscillator 1 here. So we're not going to change any of these, but we are going to change the waveform shape. So let's go and bring up a pulse wave. And in fact, we want it to be a square wave. So this would be wave 5 here. And now, okay, so we get our square wave. Now let's configure the envelope settings. So the decay time, we're going to set that to 100. And set sustain level to 100. And in fact, with the sustain at 100, the decay in this particular case is not going to have any effect, because what will happen is the attack time is 0, so the sound will reach its maximum volume, and then normally it would decay over this time to whatever the sustain level is, but since the sustain level is at 100, then it's already at its maximum, so it will stay at the maximum level. And then we want to increase the release to add a tail to the notes. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to increase the release to 48.5. And the last thing, set velocity to 0. Okay, next we're going to add a filter, so add VCF1, set the filter type to LP mid drive. And for this one, we are going to modulate the filter with ENV2, and we're going to set the cutoff to 5, and then increase the modulation on ENV2, set it to 140. Okay, now let's set up envelope 2. We want to set the decay time to 42.5 and the sustain level to 27. So I'm going to bring the sustain down and increase it to 27. And then set the decay to 42.5. And set the release to 64. Set velocity to 0. Okay, so that's it for oscillator and filter setup. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is add the comb filter. So I'm going to select comb 1, and for now I'm going to mute lane 2. The first thing that we want to do with the comb filter in this case is bring the feedback level up to 100, because if we don't, we won't hear anything, or we'll just hear a little pop sound as we make changes. So bring feedback to 100, and then bring pre-fill up to 55. Okay, now we want to detune it slightly. Set detune to 4. Set input to 100. Set damp to 50.5. And then finally set the width to 100. Okay, and now we're going to mix the two together. So what I'll do is I'll bring the volume of lane 1 all the way down, so we will not be hearing the comb filter, and then I'll mix that in with the other one, and the final value that we're going to get is 73. So we'll be setting the lane 1 volume to 73. So let me do that now. Okay, that's it for the oscillator and filter setup, and now we can go ahead and add effects. So the first effect that we're going to add is the delay. So add delay 1, and for this we're going to set the Sync time to 1/4 dot for sync 1, and for sync 2 it's going to be 1/4. And then bring the cross back all the way down to 0. And I'll be mixing this in, setting mix to 36 and feedback setting that to 43.5. Okay, next we're going to add reverb. So add reverb 1. For this we want to set the dry to 100 and the wet we're going to set that to 42. And then set range to 59, feedback to 41, and dampening to 12.5. Okay, and next we're going to set the EQ. So let's add EQ 1 and set filter 1. We're going to move that all the way to the left, setting it at 55 Hertz with a gain of plus 2.5. For filter 2, we're going to set that to 175 Hertz and put a boost of 7.5 dB. And for filter 3, we're going to set that right above 5.5K, probably close to 6 kilohertz, and put a 3 dB boost in at 6 kilohertz. And finally, let's adjust the output levels. We're going to lower the master level to 75 and set the output to 67.75. And what I'm doing here is I'm holding the shift key down as I basically hold the shift key down before you click on the control, then click, and then you can move it in increments of 0.01 for fine tuning. Okay, so the output's at 67.75, so that is the patch. Let's play through it one time. And if we combine it with the bass patch that we had programmed back in Module 2, it sounds like this when combined. And that's it for this patch. I'll see you in the next video.